today I'm going to show you a real easy, simple watering solution so that you do not have to worry when you go on vacation or go visit those relatives. Let's get out of the weeds. Thank you guys for coming back to yet another video. And so the lawn care season has finally come to an end. But the channel's not going to. So I'm going to keep things rolling throughout the rest of the year with putting out videos. It's just going to not always be lawn oriented. I'm always going to try to keep this channel to be nice, helpful lifestyle solutions for you in your home. So it's still going to be kind of the same basis on how I do beginner lawn care. Well, it's going to be kind of beginner tricks and tips to make your life easier, kind of based on the season we're in. Because us with cool season grass up here, our season kind of shuts down here for a few months. And so that's why today I wanted to kind of get into Christmas here. A lot of you are going to be getting real Christmas trees. If you don't get real Christmas trees, you probably should, because man, they're stinking awesome. So we've always, my whole life growing up, we've always had real trees. And so one of the things with it has always been kind of watering it. It's always a pain to water. You're always having to have that Christmas tree stand, and you're filling up cups, and you're trying to get underneath the tree that's decorated and dumping cups of water in it to try to fill the stand each day. And so last year I implemented a really easy kind of hack that makes watering the tree very, very easy on a daily basis, and then can also be something that works if you have to go out of town for a few days and you don't have anybody to water your tree. Before I get in how to do this, I want to show you everything you're going to need, talk you through what we're actually going to do, and then I'll show you here how to make it happen. So first off, we have your Christmas tree stand. So you need that here. Typically, you'll have your tree already in it, but for this, it's easier for me to show you without a tree in it. Next, you need a container. Now, I'll talk about the best type of containers to use kind of as we do this, but you will need some kind of a plastic tote or some kind of container that can hold water. Next, you're going to just need some of this PVC plastic tubing. Now, the actual diameter of it isn't really that important. I would go with something a little bit smaller. You don't have to go really, really tiny, but you just need a little bit of this. And now you just only need a few feet of it. I wouldn't get, you don't really need that much. And this is all you need to be able to create your automatic tree water. So how this automatic tree water is going to be is, instead of filling up this with just a few cups of water and filling it up each day as your tree drinks it, you're going to start filling up this, your container and your tote, and you will have the PVC tubing here going from one to the other, and as your tree drinks the water, this is going to start emptying into this, keeping it continually filled. And so therefore it allows you to hold a lot more water depending on the size and shape of your container. So the first thing to do this, what we need to do is figure out how deep your tree stand is. And so what you need to do is just get out a tape measure, and you just go and stick it in your tree stand and measure how high it is towards the top. Now, I wouldn't count it all the way to the very top. Give yourself a little bit of room, because this is going to matter for how full this thing gets. And so for mine here, we're looking at just under 4.5 inches to get right up towards the top, to give us still a little bit of room so the thing's not going to overflow. So just under 4.5 inches. So now what you want to do for your next step, whatever your depth of your tree stand is, you want to measure it for your container. So if mine was 4.5 inches, I need to measure 4.5 inches on my container. And so take like a marker or something to be able to mark up your container. And so I got a little pink one here from my daughter. And so I want to go down here, measure it, and I get to right about 4.5 inches, and I'm gonna put a mark on it. And so now my container is marked at where the 4.5 inch mark is on this one. So now this is important, because this is going to show me how full I can fill this up. If I fill this thing up to the full, it's going to overflow this, because what we're going to be creating is a siphon that's going to siphon the water from here into here as your tree drinks it. So the thing with siphons is the water's always going to try to balance and equalize. And so what's going to happen is whatever height you fill this up to, your tree on this side is going to try to fill it up to that same height. So that's why that measurement's important. Before I get into actually how to do it, choosing the right container, because you don't want to get too deep into this and be using the wrong container. Now, for this, and I'll demonstrate this to you why this is important as well. For your container, you want something that is more wide than what it is necessarily tall. If you pick something that's tall and skinny, you're not going to be able to hold as much water, so you wouldn't be able to water it for as long. What happens is as your tree drinks it, all it matters is it's going to try to get to that equal height, not an equal amount of water. And so that's why that 4.5 inches was important for us to mark, at least for my tree. So for yours, it might be a different depth, but that's why that depth is important to mark. And so what you want to do is you would rather do something, since tree stands aren't very deep, you want to go with a container that's more wide than what it is necessarily tall. Because as long as it's tall enough to reach the top of what your tree stand depth is, then it's going to be plenty. But you want something that's wider. That way that you can get longer watering periods. So if you're gone for a week or so, even that, you could just have it filled and you have a ton of water if you have a lot of thing carrying a bunch of water. And so now I want to demonstrate this to you. But before we do that, I want to show you what you need to do for your tubing here. And so you have this tubing. Now with this tubing, it always likes to be a little finicky. It's always usually bent and stuff like that. So what I usually do is I take something and I usually zip tie it to keep it kind of straighter instead of bending and everything else, just to try to keep it where everything will be steady. And so what I got here is these are actually, I think, fence, like chain link fence ties that I used. And so this should work just fine. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just zip tie it to this. Now you could use much smaller zip ties than what I'm using, obviously. And so what this is going to do is it's just going to help keep this tubing straight so it's not getting all bent up, and keep it less likely to pop out of the water as I'm gone and not paying attention. Like if you're on vacation, you're not going to be checking it, so you need something that stays in there secure. And so put in just like that, it's helped to keep this straighter. And so I got something more kind of going in straight into my container, and now I just need to quickly do it to the other side. Okay, so I have my two ends now that are a little bit more steady and straight. And so that's an optional step. You could get away with maybe not doing it. I would just feel more peace of mind trying to keep all my ducks in a row, making sure this doesn't, one of these pop out. Because if it pops out of the water or comes out of the container at all and gets a little bit of air in the line, it's going to just stop it from working, and next thing you know, your tree's not getting any water. And so for this, I'm going to actually use this instead of my tree stand, just since this is clear and so you guys can see through, so you can actually see the water levels moving, but it's going to work all the same. So here I have my two containers. Now, we'll pretend this is our tree stand. Now, I have it partially filled up, not all the way though. So it's partially filled up, and you can see the water level on this one is already is higher than what this is. And so this is exactly how this will work. Your tree stand will be here. It needs some water. And so what we need to do is we need to get some of this water into here. So by doing that, we're going to create a siphon. Now, I do want to warn you with this. You're going to have to suck some water. Now, if you're really good at this, you could get it to where you don't suck any water into your mouth, but it's kind of hard to get that timing right. So I'd recommend you starting with your clean water in your container. Make sure your container is washed out, and the clean water you have in your container, I would prefer to suck through that than suck through tree water. If there's a tree in your stand already and it's all dirty and stuff, I don't really want that stuff getting in my mouth. So I would start by doing your sucking through your cleaner container, So that way you avoid getting tree water in your mouth. Because chances are, if you haven't really done this before, you're going to get water in your mouth. So now what you want to do is stick one of your ends of your tubing into either the tree stand or the container. And so you want one of them in, and then the other end you're going to have to suck on. And so now I'm going to suck on this end. As soon as the water makes it all the way to my mouth, I have to pull my mouth off and close it up with my thumb, making sure that no air gets into the line. I then will hold this cap, put my hand down into my other container that you have. Once it gets under the water, you can let it go, and that should create the siphon, and then you should be able to see the water level on this going down and this start to fill up. There it goes. See that water? Right there, see? Filling up. I got a lot of water in my mouth. But look at it. So that's why I recommended start your sucking from the clean container, not from your tree water. You don't want that tree water in your mouth. So there we are, we're up above 5. We're getting to 5 cups now and moving. You can see the water levels starting to equalize there. And as long as you did this right, you can keep your, you don't have to hold everything in. There we go, up above 5. Getting higher, look at that. And so that's why the importance of the size of the container really matters, because the more kind of surface area that your water container has, the more water you're going to be able to hold, and therefore fill up your tree container a lot more times. So how this is going to work is, with this being your tree stand, see your tree's in here, what's going to happen is your tree is going to start to drink the water. And as it drinks the water, this water level is going to go lower. And as the tree drinks the water, it makes the water level lower. It's going to take water from here and put it in here to keep the water levels equal. Now, what you want to just make sure that you have your tubing in that secured to your stand and into your container, because you don't want those to pull out. If those pull out of the water at all, the siphon will stop and it will no longer be watering your tree. What you can do now then, even if you're not going on vacation, say you're home for the whole Christmas season, if you have something like this, instead of having to get underneath the tree and doing stuff, you could just keep watering this. And so this is a pretty big container. And so I'll kind of show you the math here on the screen. Now, how I factored it out is how many ounces my tree stand holds versus how many ounces your container holds will tell you how many times your container could fill up your tree, to give you kind of a rough idea. And so what I found is this container here filled to that 4.5 inch mark, which is to the top of my tree stand, can fill up my tree stand 3.5 times. And so my tree would have to drink 3.5 tree stand fulls of water to empty out this container one time. And so that would definitely buy me a good bit of time. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I don't want some big old plastic tote just sitting underneath my tree or beside my tree all year. Well, a cool thing that you can do is you can actually wrap these in, like, wrapping paper, almost like it's a present sitting under your tree. I know a lot of people, for decoration stuff, throw presents under the tree or different things under their tree just for the aesthetics of it. So what you can do is, chances are you won't be using quite as big of a tote as I'm doing here. I just wanted to do this as an example. But if you have the tote that you want to do, go and take it and its lid, wrap it in wrapping paper, and then you can just have this thing going on tucked back behind the tree, and it just looks like a gift sitting underneath your tree. Then when you go to water, you can just lift up the lid, pour some of your water into your container, put the lid, and it looks like a present sitting under your tree the whole season. So as your tree drinks some water out of the stand, this will drain this little cup very, very quickly because it's just tall and skinny and not holding much water. And that's why you want something that is a big, wide base, so that way it can hold a lot of water and keep filling up your tree. And so that's how it works. So you would just keep your siphon going, keep filling up your container, and you will be keeping your tree watered and alive all throughout the holiday season. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time when we get out of the weeds and see a beautiful Christmas tree.